Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the news on the HVAC Grapevine. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm your host, Eric Kaiser. Now, first up tonight, let's talk about a new piece of software that Mitsubishi Electric has developed. I am fascinated by this software because what they're doing is they are actually visualizing in 3 dimensions airflow in a room. The idea behind this is that they want to know what the airflow in the room is to maximize comfort and maximize heat transfer from the air into the surfaces of the room. Because as we know, if we've studied much about human comfort, the majority of human comfort actually comes from radiant heat. Now, that can mean that the human body, which constantly generates radiant heat, is radiating heat out to colder surfaces, or maybe there's warmer surfaces radiating heat towards us. Either way, that takes up about 50 to 60% of human comfort is based on radiant heat, so it's a very important thing to control. Now, the way they do this is they analyze the airflow coming out of the HVAC system into a room, and they use something called Computational Fluid Dynamics, or CFD for short, to make a visual picture of this and then figure out how to make tweaks and adjustments to the airflow in the room for better human comfort. I really think this is very, very cool, and I'm hoping that it will be a helpful thing to the industry in the future to improve human comfort in the spaces that we condition, because after all, that is what we're all about. Next up, artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence is something that we've heard about for quite a while in all kinds of various things. It appears in movies, there's robots that attack people and tear up the entire earth, who knows what. Whether we like it or not, it's probably here to stay. I don't see it going away anytime soon. And it is starting to come into the HVAC marketplace. I've seen recently where it's coming in 2 different facets. One is in total building control or building automation, where they're looking at the movement of humans around the building and controlling the equipment based on that. Now, one such company in New Jersey has actually put it into buildings with a company called BrainBox AI, and they're going to try this out and see how it works. So that will be an interesting thing long term to see if it actually meets their goals. They're touting some pretty big money savings, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. Another way is it's coming into the distribution and sales model through manufacturers and distributor partners. One big partnership recently has been with Daikin and a company called XOI Technologies out of Tennessee. Now, this is interesting to me because Daikin, as we know, is a manufacturer, but they're also a big distributor partner because they also own part of the distribution chain in certain parts of the country. So, keep an eye out for this because it's probably coming to you if you deal with the company. And one thing, if we look back on technology, is that when new technologies like this come to the marketplace, companies that don't adopt it and fight against it tend to get left behind. Or people that fight against it and don't adopt it tend to get left behind. So if you see new technology coming your way, I would take a really hard look at it and say, hey, could this work for me? Could this help my company? And ultimately, could it help my customers? Another thing coming, and that has been around for a while, but it's really coming to the forefront within the past couple years with the COVID virus being around us, is indoor air quality. Now, the EPA in the United States has launched a Clean Air in Buildings Challenge. Now, this is providing guidance to building owners to help them clean up the air indoors because we spend a lot of time indoors. The interesting thing to me was that this is mostly focused on office spaces and commercial buildings and not so much on residential spaces. And the thing that COVID has done is it's sent a lot of people home to work from their houses. And I'm seeing a lot of companies that are either allowing their employees to work from home because they've actually found in a lot of cases that it's more efficient than going into the office, and they get more work done, or they're letting them become split workers where some days they go into the office and some days they work from home. So people are tending to spend a lot more time indoors in their houses than they were prior to 2020 when we got hit with the virus. So keep a lookout, study some of this stuff, and really start taking a look at indoor air quality or indoor environment quality measurements and ways to improve that indoor environment for your customers. With that, tonight, you may be wondering why I'm talking about really, really new cutting edge technologies. They do interest me. I am kind of a bit of a nerd and a geek on the HVAC side, and really the new technologies I like to keep up on sometimes because it helps me understand the directions that the industry is going. But in tonight's show, we're going to be talking about some old technologies and some old tools, really, that have maybe been around in our lifetimes or our time in the trade. So with that, over to the live show on the HVAC Grapevine.
That was good stuff, Eric.
What's
good
up?
Stuff.
What's going on?
What's up, everybody?
Here we are again.
Here we are.
Having fun again.
And that's the news.
And that's the news. That was good news. So what I want to talk about in that news special, man, was the Mitsubishi thing. Okay, I'm just going to jump right into it. I read that article this morning because it got me curious. And inside that article, it basically stated from like 0.1 meters to 1.7 meters, basically like 5 feet from the floor going up. Basically, they're saying they could mix the air 2.5 times faster than any other situation. And what the pictures show, and I'll share this article if anybody wants it, they're showing a picture where they have 4 cassettes, right? And then and that's one picture, but these 4 cassettes are throwing air out at like a 45-degree angle. And then 4 other cassettes of a different name brand where the airflow is like shooting straight at each other. And I guess they're trying to make this air circulate in a circle pattern. I don't know. It's pretty deep. But they're claiming that it takes 163 minutes to mix that air in the far corners, while they can mix that same air in that same location in 3 minutes. What do you think?
I mean, that was the thing I got out of it. Like they're not only going after the main parts of the room, but they're going after like the far corners where maybe there's hot spots or cold spots that really affect human comfort. And to me, that's like it's just that next level up that we're really seeing starting to go in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bold statement though, man. 163 minutes or so gain.
Well, I mean, yeah, they went from, what was it? They went from 163 minutes down to 3 minutes being able to mix that air around the room.
Yeah.
Because it was like 160-minute reduction in
time. What are we talking about? VAV or ductless?
Well, Mitsubishi obviously is focused mostly on ductless, I think. So it's VRF.
It was a little vague. As far as the article, it was kind of like almost like here's a scratch in the surface a little bit.
Yeah.
Or we have technology.
A lot of that under wraps.
Yeah. We have the technology. Yeah. We're not releasing it yet type deal. Okay.
Yeah. It was like, it was almost like a teaser of these are things yet to come. But to me, I mean, man, I launched onto that and latched onto that and I'm like, wow, that is just cool.
Yeah.
T-Lake was saying, do they use a fogger to give a visual effect? No, I don't think it's a fogger. They didn't really go into detail. It's 3D models. Look, speaking of foggers.
What are you doing over there?
I got the new Mitsubishi stuff.
Oh,
I got it already.
Like I
No,
think Michael's taking us into our first
That's it.
tool of tonight, man. Old school tools.
Old school tools. What's he got over
Michael,
there?
yeah, let's see what you
Oh,
got, man.
that's a rig, man.
Is that
That's
a vape pen?
It's a vape pen.
Like a walkie-talkie vape pen?
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a mod.
Hey,
Question.
you can make it smell like what's that smell like? Cherry?
It smells like strawberries in here right now. Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right, real stuff.
yeah.
Real talk. Did you use that on a house?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
how long is it? Like, when did you first start using that on? Like, when did you say, I'm going to go use this?
I think about a year ago when Retro Tech decided not to come out with that Bluetooth fogger, I was like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
So is
I
that
see.
Bluetooth too?
No, not that, not mine.
Oh man, here I thought you'd come up with
This is
something. Come on,
manual.
don't be teasing us like that.
So, man,
Yeah.
tell us the story, bro. You dig it out. You hit job number one. Like,
Yeah, dude. Because
was it an eye opener?
well, it's nice when I do pressurization with a blower door. You could see that smoke disappear. So
Mhm.
Yeah, just poof, gone right out the
Yeah.
hole. Yeah.
yeah, or even on when you have the on what pressurization, that's when you see it.
Yeah.
Depressurization helps too, but I mean what's that one they have on the website? It's like $1,000 for the small device that's just like this.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, man.
Sorry, but that's crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
I've
got a
right.
that Cirrus wind indicator or something. I think
Yeah.
Tech carries it. I think it's
That-
$150 or something.
That's a good investment. Yeah.
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 If I didn't have that, I actually had that in my cart on True Tech Tools.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Bill's like, darn it, missed
yeah.
another one.
Well, he still
Well-
got it. It's just sitting there,
Yeah. And I'm not,
It's a hot
I don't
lead.
vape anymore. Yeah.
Well,
But
man,
what's up with that
Yeah.
Mitsubishi though? Like, does
I
it
mean,
have infrared like the ductless head?
Like Mitsubishi's had those infrared sensors on their ductless heads and on some of their, like, you could add it in on their ceiling cassettes for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, right?
But I don't know what exactly. I think they're just trying to go for much better comfort because they're looking like what they were talking about in there is they're going to 3D model the room. They're going to put like obstructions to airflow in the room. So walls, desks,
Right.
cubicle walls, things like that into this model. And
Yeah.
then with the computational flow dynamics, it predicts the flow of air around that room based on all the objects in the room in a 3D scenario. So they can predict based on the outlet air temperature and the surface temperatures that are trying to be conditioned, how fast they can actually make those surfaces conditioned.
Yeah, because I was listening to somebody say if you have, and everybody's like cold orientated in building performance there. If you have a cold window, your heat will gravitate towards it. If you have a cold wall, if you have a certain spot in the room versus like a regular medium temperature wall, you'll feel that in the room, make you feel uncomfortable.
Right, because it's radiant. And so when your body is radiating heat, because our bodies are always generating heat. And if there's a cold surface, it's like standing next to a cold wall in the wintertime.
Right. It pulls
That
it from
side
you.
of you feels it's pulling heat away from you.
So it's like the fire pit analogy, huh?
Yeah, it's the fire pit analogy in reverse.
Somebody walks in front of you in the fire pit, you feel cold.
Or you're standing there and the front side of you is warm that's facing the fire pit, and the back side of you is cold because you're only picking up that radiant heat on one side of you. It's not actually warming the air. It's just that radiant heat. That's why, when you stand there and you turn yourself around, you stay warmer, or you rotate your hot dog or your marshmallow.
Right. Imagine being on a spaceship. Back's frozen.
Right? They better have some good insulation on that sucker.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I don't believe they made it to the moon.
all right,
Another
man,
show.
so
Different show, right?
Different show. Different show.
Okay.
I'm
Frank
gonna
call.
take over my old tool for the night. You ready?
Oh, you're old
So,
school for the night. I
yep,
got a
this
stack
is-
of them over here, guys. So
I
you
know.
better just get ready.
So this is
Dude.
my dad's oldie goldie, right? This is probably a theft situation from ExxonMobil. So if anyone from Exxon's watching, this probably belongs to them. There's probably an Exxon sticker on the back. So this is the case, man.
Dude.
This is Dwyer's like manometer setup, right? So like, to be honest, this thing weighs.
Was that what you were playing with on the intro video there?
Yeah.
That thing
So
looks
that's-
like it should be on the spaceship.
It's super heavy, and it probably weighs as much as like a lightweight tool bag. You know,
It's
like us
85 pounds.
You know, we carry, yeah. You know, we carry like our big bag when we're gonna do something serious. But if we're just doing like quick service call, we're carrying our little pocket-sized tool bag. I would say it weighs heavier than that.
So it's
But-
not the weight of an empty Vito tool bag, is what you're saying.
That's right. But, so this is it, man. This is
Dude,
the
this
bad
thing
boy
is
right
awesome.
here.
That is crazy.
That is. Look at that dinosaur, man. How cool is that?
Dude, that is cool.
That
That
is
is cool.
that
The
is
downside is I don't have enough liquid in the bottom to like fill it up to run it.
Eric, what do you put in there? Like uranium or something like that?
probably at
Yeah.
least.
Mercury?
It's some kind of. Well, I mean, back in the old days, before those, I may have used mercury. Mercury is a very accurate substance for pressures because you really can't change it.
All right, so this got me curious. I was
Right, does
out
it
of the red.
evaporate?
It does very slowly though. So I'll tell you, like I looked into the fill tube. Like this is a little 3/4 ounces that come with the kit. It's gone. So I was like, man, I should order some. And I'm like, and I was thinking to myself, my ignorant side of the day, I was like, what if I just put some water in it? You know what I'm saying?
It's not gonna work.
And I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. So I was like, I wonder what's up with this fluid. Well, this was interesting. So I read into Dwyer's specs on the fluid, and this is what they have to think about when they're making that fluid for that device. So this is the criteria. They have to have the density figured out, specific gravity, surface tension, corrosive properties, coefficient of thermal expansion, viscosity changes with temperature, the effect of the coloring of the dye, and then the influence of absorption of water vapor from the atmospheric into the fluid.
I feel like
And
I'm
that's-
back at Eric's class at the symposium
Yeah,
with his wife.
that's right. Yeah,
What was
That's
that
a-
class, Eric?
that's a huge list for some red dye.
Right? Yeah. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
I mean, that's deep.
Whew.
Who knew the fluid went that far?
That's some serious. I mean, I knew that stuff was serious, but that's like, wow.
That explains why we went to electronic ones, right?
I like that little thing a lot more now.
Yeah,
What's
I can
that?
push a button and turn it on.
that's
What
the
was
best
that
thing.
thing?
That's the best thing since sliced bread, man. That's
I'm
the
telling you
DG8.
what,
DG8.
that little DG8 is my favorite.
So I'm gonna be straight up. I haven't really played with that till like this morning, and I was like, man, let me think about this, right? So this takes me into like Dwyer's world a little bit. So somebody made a comment earlier about papyrus paper, right? Look at this instruction manual. Look at that. Like that's about as close as you get, right? Like I'm afraid to handle it too hard, but it basically gives you all the instructions on how to use the tool.
I bet you can't find a PDF of that anywhere.
I guarantee you will not. You know, I'm surprised it's still in the kit. But where I was going with that is it also came with this air velocity calculator. Now this is pretty cool.
Dude,
Yeah.
that was in the box?
That was in the box. I actually got two of them. I'll send you the other one if you want it. Yeah.
No way.
And it basically is a calculator that will give you a density and correction for airflow.
That's cool.
That is cool. You
It
know,
looked like it was made yesterday.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. But I was playing, I had the Dwyer app on my phone, right? This is the Dwyer app. And what I was noticing is like that app is basically this, right? They just took this and threw it into an app. It's almost the exact same thing.
Nice.
And so like we're getting in from old school to new school.
Right.
Here's what I would say. The app I could use like that, right? It was fast and it was made easy. And it took me, this is sad to say, But this took me a solid half hour to kind of look at this and be like, what's going on here? Right? Flip to this side, flip to that side. I don't know if I've just gotten used to my iPhone and the way things work, and I'm just like, my brain is, geared that way. But when I'm sitting here, that's right. And I'm sitting here playing with this, and I'm like, use the correction factor. And I get that they have limited space on this thing to write wording. And I'm sitting here trying to be like, man, how does this work?
Any of those slide calculators, you kind of have to figure out what step 1, step 2, step 3 is, right? What do you do
that's
first?
exactly,
what do you do second? What do you do third?
But here's what I would tell you. Going through that process also makes things click a little bit more, right? Like you understand why you're going through the process. Why the app's just like, hey, here's the answer. Here's the fast answer.
The foundation.
And maybe that's the problem, man, in today's world. We want apps and we want quick answers. But yet if we all went back to slide rules, maybe we wouldn't have quick answers, and the tech would actually have to look at it and go, man, I wonder why that's important. And he'd have to actually kind of think about it pretty hard and then move forward. So, are we doing ourselves a favor or are we not?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
That's my 2 cents for the day.
That's a good question, man. I mean, is this all these smartphones? Is it making us smarter or more reliant on technology?
I think, here's what I think. I think that the apps that we're using and everything we're doing is making us faster. And I think we're losing the ability to do we're forgetting all the simple stuff, which was the building blocks to get us to that level, right? Like, and is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. I'm going to insult myself for a moment, right? So I work for TEC, and our physicist is Colin. And we were out to dinner in Vegas, and Colin was telling the story, and I was like, man, I get it, but I won't remember that tomorrow. Like, I can't just keep that kind of thought process. And he's like, Chris, he's like, yeah, but you haven't been a physicist your whole life. You haven't been through the classes. He goes, you don't have the foundational building blocks to retain what we were, to remember how deep this went. And I get what he's saying. It's like, if you don't have the core curriculum under your belt for that next level conversation, you're not going to remember it the next day, the next week, the next month. Sooner or later, it's going to fade. And for him, it's just going to stay there.
Yeah.
Like a counterpoint to that would be like, if you turn Colin loose on an air conditioner tomorrow, he might understand the physics of what's happening, but can he really do anything with that physical air conditioner?
He would tell you no. He would say, I absolutely don't know how to touch an air conditioner, but I think he's being humble. You know what I mean? I think he's just trying to be really nice. He's like, Chris, you're not a total idiot. We like you being here.
Here's the thing. If somebody walked up to you 30 years ago and started telling you how that air conditioner worked, do you think you would have remembered it all the day after? Or you've now sat there for years and years and years and done it, and now you understand it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think when you do air conditioning long enough, you get whenever someone gives you a service call, you could pull up to the house and you could almost judge that service call just by, I know this sounds crazy, but if you could put me on a service call and tell me it's hot in the house, and I know the neighborhood, I can look at the house. I could judge the install from the house, from houses around it, because I've probably been in those houses. I'll look at their car. I'll look at how they cut the grass. All of this stuff is computing in my mind, and I'm like, I already know what the problem is. I mean, within respect, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know if they're filter changers, like if they're probably changing the filter, or if they're not. Do they clean their condenser? Do they not? Do they hire people out for maintenance every year? Do they not? Like, you get those messages, like, you start to learn the neighborhood. You start to learn the people in your town. You get it.
See, I mean, I never had that when I was on a truck, because, like, it really didn't matter who was doing it. They, the people all treated their HVAC systems differently. I never found a correlation between, like, all that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Maybe I judged a book by its cover, but no, normally I was pretty right.
But you get used to like each neighborhood has their own certain application, so you kind of get
you know, you would know the house build, you know the age of the house,
yeah.
and you know you got people who cut their grass every week. You got the people who landscape their house 4 times in the summer, and you know those people are meticulous when you pull it to the house, and you're like, well, this is a person who's definitely probably changing their filter. You know, you could probably eat off the floor, right? And you know you're not dealing with probably a dirty evaporator coil.
Yeah.
Right. You just kind of know that when you pull it to the house. It's like Chris hates poor people is what I'm hearing. That's right, man. That's right, Nathan. If the house wasn't like a 2-story and worth like at least $350,000, I'm just driving right past it.
Only Nathan would come up with that.
Oh man.
He's a trip, dude.
All right, Eric. Take us down your road of old school tools.
Man. Oh my gosh, man! I got a stack
arsenal
over here. I've got an overflowing table next to me. All right, I'm gonna switch over. I'm gonna switch over. Oh, my favorite. Oh, we'll get to that.
You gotta do it at the end, right?
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, I've got them stacked 3 and 4 deep over here. It's crazy.
Show us your best one, man.
I'm going to show you probably the oldest one, maybe the oldest one first here.
All right.
Let's check this out. So this is a lot of this stuff was made by a company called Bonnie Tools, and they made these refrigeration ratchets for a long time. Now this is an old one, but they also back in the day came with all these gland nut sockets that were designed to tighten the packing nuts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they've got all kinds of different shapes of packing nut wrenches. And I've kind of accumulated a lot of these off eBay when I was in the commercial world because I actually still used a lot of them on older equipment or various things. But they become really handy. And then with one of them, there was, you buy lots off eBay and you find this stuff. This has got to be the biggest refrigeration wrench I've ever seen.
I can
stick my finger in that thing.
I just want to know, like, that looks like it would go on a king valve of like a 40-horse semi-hermetic compressor.
That's
what that's made for.
It's ginormous.
No, I'm telling you, I've worked. There was this building in Baton Rouge. There was a glass building, and it had 6 floors, and like. The middle floors were like 30-horse compressors. I think the top floor was a 40 and the bottom was maybe a 30. But they had these huge king valves on the in and outlet of these, semi-hermetic compressors. And the suction valve port looks like it would take that wrench.
That's crazy, dude. That's why I stick to residential. No. That's too much work for me.
That reminds me of a story, though. When I look at that wrench, it makes me think about Train's condenser, where they had the angle valve and they had the fan pressure controller right off the end of it, right? And if you
so you could never close that. You could never backseat that valve. Or
if you backseat the valve, you're tripping on head pressure.
They were doing whatever they wanted to do.
Right. I like, good idea, but at the same time, maybe the industry wasn't ready for it. You know what I'm saying? I know that sounds.
Well, I mean, I've run across that even in residential, where you'll have that service valve that you access with the access on it, and somebody will put like a fan. They'll screw a fan cycle switch on there, and then the next person behind them, of course, they put it on with a T, so you can still get to it. But then the next person comes behind them and closes and backseats the valve, and you're like, well, this didn't work.
Yeah. I got to tell another story. I'm sorry. This is a good one.
Here we go.
So, me and my dad we were at a church one time, and it had 2 trained.
You were working, or
yeah, we were working. And mass was going on inside this Catholic church, and there was like 2 30-ton condensers outside. One of them was down. We were trying to get it back up. And Train in this condenser, they had 2 low pressure switch. They had like a dropout, which would like trip at 7 PSI. And then they had one right after it that would trip at like 30 PSI. And we figured out that the 7 PSI switch was bad. And my dad literally said, he goes, yeah, it's got a Schrader underneath it. I know it does. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, 'cause
Famous last words.
this suction line is like, it's big, dude. It's big. We're talking this.
What PSI?
I don't know. But this thing's probably holding, I would say 3.5 drums R22, right?
Oh, 22. Okay.
Yeah. This is R22 days.
So resting pressure was,
yeah,
man.
it was, I mean, it's a lot of volume, right?
Yeah.
So I'm super cautious. I'm probably in my early 20s, maybe like 22. And I'm unscrewing this thing, right? And everybody's played this game. You open it, and you get to that really fine spot where you like, did the Schrader stop leaking? Are we good to go now? Can I go ahead and take it the rest of the way off? It's like a quarter of a thread, man. That's all you get in that little game.
Oh man.
And
I think we've all played that one.
And back then everybody, wore Doc Martens. Doc Martens was the boot to wear, right? So like we're literally taking it off, and I'm like, Dad, I don't know. I'm like, seems like, and he's like, just take the dang, like just take it off, like he's being frustrated. And I'm like, all right. And like the minute I get it cranked, boom, it goes off like a shotgun. It was so loud. It sounded like a 12-gauge shotgun went off. Damn. And there's just 22 just blowing, bro.
And oil too, right?
Right.
Just oil.
So I take my Doc Marten boot and I just step right over the port, right? I just put my foot over it, and I'm holding the pressure down with my foot. And I look at my old man, I'm like, what the heck are we going to do? He's like, don't move your foot. I'll be right back. Right. Bro, and he goes to the truck, and I'm like, got my foot pressed on this port, right? And I'm like, I don't know what he's about to do. So he comes back with like welding gloves on, right? And he's got a new low pressure switch. And he's like, when I say move your foot, just move your foot. And I'm like, you really going to go for that? And he's like, oh yeah. He goes, I'm going to get it on there. I'm like, all right. And I swear, man, move my foot. Boom, and he's just getting it, bro, going to town. And he screws that low pressure switch on. And I was like, man, yep, he did it.
That's awesome.
He did it. I mean,
I'm feeling like a great meme with you and Doc Martens and just like your foot.
It was impressive,
Dad in the background. Somebody get that in the chat right now. Get a meme going. Please.
I'm telling you, that was one of the scariest things I've done in the trade, along with me and him were working on a Cantel unit inside a server room. Same application happened. And I guess I was probably 28 at this point. Same situation almost, except it had a Schrader, but the Schrader stuck and it was spewing gas. And I never forget, like I screwed the pressure switch or something back on. I can't remember what was hooked to it, but it blew, and then I was screwing it back on, and Freon just blasting at me, man. And my hands are just being burnt to heck back. But I'm in this server room, right, with all these electronics, got a halide system, and I'm thinking, man, I don't want to be sued, right? I'm just thinking like we're going to be in deep trouble if I don't get this fixed. And I'm just screwing it back on as hard as I can, and I get it. And I literally, the Freon just burning my hand like crazy. And I got it most of the way where it was just leaking a little bit. And I jumped back and I grabbed my hand. And my dad looks at me and I'm like, I think we got a problem. And he goes, all right, get out of the way. He gets out of the way. Like I jump out of the way, and my dad turns the pressure switch and gets it to stop leaking. And he looks at me and I look at me, and everything is just a big bubble all the way to about my wrist, right? And I went to the bathroom because I didn't know what to do at the time. Ooh. And I'm just letting water run over my hand the whole time, right? And it burned and it burned and it burned. I lost all that skin.
Did it turn black like that guy's foot in Mr. Deeds?
No, it turns crazy red. I actually didn't end up going to the doctor over it. We were just like country bumpkins, man. We didn't go to the doctor for nothing. I just toughed it out, doctored it up, and after a couple of weeks, everything was good. But I'll never forget that one. Yeah. And my dad literally says, why don't you just let it blow? I'm like, in the server room? He's like, it probably don't hold that much,
That sounds like your dad too.
Yeah. That sounds like, if you met my dad, that's a dad statement. He'd be like, yeah, who cares? Whatever.
Yeah. I would just fill it out.
Yeah. Jeez. All right. Sorry.
So Eric, you're saying that those wrenches that some of them have packing nuts on some applications.
No, so the service valves, when you have the square-headed service valve that's got that stem on it, there's
Yeah.
actually a packing nut at the bottom of that stem, just like a packing nut
Oh,
in a
yeah.
faucet, right?
Yep.
And you're supposed to, if you read the directions, actually loosen that packing nut like a quarter turn or something
Nobody
before
does
you
that.
move that stem in and out, and then retighten it when you're done.
Wow. So just back it off a little bit, then you could use the service wrench.
Yeah. You're
Okay.
not supposed to cycle those valves without loosening that packing nut. But the problem is nobody
reads a
makes
manual?
those wrenches anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen anybody that makes those wrenches for years.
Well, what else you got in your toolbox over
They
there?
make those. They're called adjustable wrenches now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
but
a crescent wrench.
if you need the two little pins to go down in it, good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah, those are hard to come by.
Yeah. That's why I looked for a bunch of these, because I kept running into them that were leaking a little bit. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to find the wrenches. Well, eBay, here I come.
Yeah, Ty said, yes, so few people know to do that. Ty, I know to do that, man. I just don't.
Yeah, I do too. I just
I'm
ignore
just
it
lazy.
carefully.
Dude, we
Thanks,
got ties in the chat. We got to step it up.
Ties in
I
the
know,
chat,
man.
We gotta bring it up. All right, this next one. All right, let's take a look at this. So, if you know about the field piece, the manometer with the draft pump in, or with the pump in it for checking pressure switches, this is actually the precursor to that. So this is called the draft simulator, and
Wow.
Fieldpiece actually bought this company and then built it into the manometer. So
Wow.
this one's the after draft simulator sold it out to Fieldpiece, so it says Fieldpiece on it.
Oh,
But
so that guy retired.
well, I don't know if he
living
retired or
on a
not,
beach
but
somewhere.
you know, it'll make
Hallelujah.
it's got two negative pressure ports, a high and low power, and then you sit here with the little needle valve and you adjust the pressure up and down to check your pressure switches for gas furnaces. And then this is a continuity, so you put a couple of probes in there, and you can hook up onto your pressure switch and watch when that pressure switch opens and closes by using a little LED on the front of it.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So
Damn.
that was the precursor, and they came out with this, I think, in the late 2000s. I think they started, or 2000s probably they started making that. I don't remember when I bought this one.
Dude, I was using a old school Spring Magna Healy when that came out.
Yep.
I
My
had
dad had one of those.
What is that? 510 is the little
The
I
Magna
gotta look it up.
that little manometer that Testo made. It was actually a really good little manometer.
That's the one I got.
It's just a little pocket, the little pocket manometer that the cover snaps on the top of it.
It's
They made another
little
one
magnet.
before that had the weakest magnet in the world on the back of it.
I think that's the one I got.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Speaking of magnets, man, that reminds me of my dad. My dad used to have this one, pocket screwdriver. It was from Train, and it had a reverse magnet on it. And whenever you install one of their new sensors on their chiller, you have to ping the controller in place, right? And you'd have to go in the program, you set it, and then a light would go off, and you go touch this reverse magnet to the controller, and it would turn like green, and that would let you know, the computer know that that's that sensor, right?
That's where you had to. That was binding the sensor, right?
Yep, binding the sensor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Until
only
they
had one of
didn't
those.
bind and
Yep.
all right, so I got a couple more here.
All right.
Let's see what we got. So this is probably, and I'm not even sure if Cooper still makes this, because Cooper's owned by Emerson now, as I know, but Cooper Atkins, this is my favorite temperature measurement gauge. And I use this for a long time for measuring temperature. And it uses thermistor-based probes rather than thermocouples. And the reason for that is that thermocouples have the ability, because of how they work, a thermocouple makes its own voltage. If you get spurious emissions or extra voltage around it, that can go into the meter and actually affect the readings. Which reminds me, I need to dig that video out somewhere. Somewhere I have a video of that happening. Of course, was probably shot on a cell phone in about 2008. So the quality isn't great, but
Hmm.
but anyway, this has got 3 temperature inputs on it. So came with a case, got some different probes. That's probably my favorite probe right there because this is one of my most versatile pipe probes that I've ever used. Because literally all you do is you put it on the pipe, and this is a elastic strap, and it clips up here in this groove, and all you do is wrap it around, and then it tightens up on that groove like that. Easiest thing in the world to put on a pipe, and as long as you can get this strap around that pipe, you can put it on there. I love that tool.
I think who used it? I think that was Zach.
Probably they were very common.
He used that, right?
Yeah, but that's the SH66A, and then they had a 77A that you could put a psychometric probe in as well. They've been around for years. Very, very common tool. But this is another tool that I picked up. I haven't been able to find another one of these. This one's made by the Delavan Company. It's an inspection mirror, but it's actually a polished stainless steel mirror, and it's so far the only mirror that I haven't broken.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, I like that.
I mean, it's that thing extends out to like almost 2.5 feet long.
No, I like the polished stainless part of it, man. I've broke a bunch of inspection mirrors in my day.
Are they still in business, Delvin?
I've not been able to find them. They sold it as a flame mirror, so it was for going back in like boilers, and stuff. And
that's cool.
It would,
dude. Every one I own broke, man.
Yeah, all of them broke.
Everyone.
I can't tell you how many I went through, but I found that one. Now, when I bought it, again, probably back in the 2000s, I'm gonna say it was probably $60 or $70 for that mirror, but I've never broken another $15 mirror again, and I've had that.
Yeah. That's why they went out of business.
I'll pay money for the. That's right.
Come on now.
I'll pay money for good stuff.
Come on now.
That's nice, Jessica. That's cool. You got one. I love it. If I could find, I'm gonna have to look again and see if they make them still. Because if I could find one, boy, I would buy another one. Just
dude, that's phenomenal.
Because it will. Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing worse than trying to get the back end of that copper with a broken little, you got like, it's like a Disney movie, It's
yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Let's take a look at a big tool right here. This one's, Chris will love this one.
Yeah.
So for those of you old folks around here, you'll probably remember this. So thermal.
Well, that's not me.
Yeah. So this was their digital compressor analyzer. So what this was kind of a precursor to having a lot of these things in a multimeter. So
dang, look at that.
Dude, what the hell is that?
It's a compressor
analyzer.
So you can hook up your external run capacitor to it. So you hook up your run capacitor with these leads right here. It'll read megohms. You can do an amps and volts test. You can actually run a compressor with this. And a lot of times what would happen was you can actually reverse the rotation on it. So this would allow it to reverse the rotation. So on the old reciprocating compressors, they would get stuck sometimes. And you can use this to reverse that compressor, and it would free it up and maybe get it to run again.
Unless it was a 6-lead motor. then when you reverse it, it goes boom.
Well, I mean,
ask me how I know.
Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame right there. Those what was that, a Bitzer that made that thing?
I don't know. But my dad used to tell me all the time when we have a motor stuck backwards and it was like in a 3-lead motor, he'd say, reverse 2 legs, bump it, turn it around, see if it'll go. And honestly, sometimes it worked and it would run. Yeah. It's crazy.
Where's the number? Ty just threw the number out there.
Oh, it's still out there?
76540. Huh.
There you go.
Still out there,
for anybody in the chat who needs to buy one, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, Dirk says it's from Johnstone too. So I don't even remember if this thing still works. Like I bought it and used it a couple times, and then it's like sat in my garage forever.
Let's go into the museum.
You would think the reverse switch would be a little bit more difficult to turn on, right? Like you would think there'd be like a lock, like
a little nuke button on there.
Yeah, like a little like
with a little flip up
and then
cover
press the
switch.
button. Yeah,
On,
because
two,
I mean, just like
three, turn.
it's like the two technicians turn keys together.
Two keys, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of different things like this. Now, most of this stuff you can do in your multimeter now, or with a megometer. But you know, carrying around this freaking suitcase, this thing's just ginormous and huge now.
All right, taking a short interlude, going into the top 5. Ready?
Oh, top 5. All right,
Here
good.
we go.
Top 5.
Shabam, top 5. Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
Topic of the night. Top 5 things technicians forget to do. Turn on the chat. See what's up there. All right, here we go. Number 5, change vacuum pump oil.
Oh.
Boom. I got a story for that. All right. I used to have I can't remember the name brand, the old blue vacuum pump. It was blue and silver. The Robin Airs, I believe it was.
Yeah, yeah.
60 FM. I didn't change my oil like all winter. I went to go use it in the summer for the first time, and it wouldn't come on. Right, it would just. And so I took it apart and I spun the motor on the back a whole bunch. Needless to say, my oil was like tacky. I drained it out. I couldn't even use
honey.
It was like honey. Yeah,
Like honey.
I literally had to throw it away. It was junk. So don't let it ride all winter after a use.
Dude, that's
Especially
a killer,
on that
man.
one.
That reminds me of a story.
I wonder
Dude.
how much vacuum that thing would pull with that sludge in the bottom of it.
I don't
Nothing.
know. Nothing.
Just
yeah.
die. That reminds me of a story, bro. My landscaper, he calls me up. He goes, "Man, you got to take care of this lady. She's living with her brother or something like that. They're like destitute." So I get out there, right? And condenser's outside, and she says, "It hasn't ran in like a year. I just haven't had the money." Right? I was like, "All right, let me you got a leak on the condenser." So I spot repair it real quick, right? Let me just patch it up. And I start pulling a vacuum. And I was like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? I'm feeling like a lot of oil. Dude, I took my vacuum pump off. It started shooting out water. Like shooting water out, dude. Like a hose. And I'm like, oh my God, they got one of those heat pump water source that took up the water heater. Right? I'm like, oh man. The vacuum pump water is like, dude, it's like milk. I was like, what the hell's going on? And I was like, I dig into it. It's literally been open pipe for a year. And rain was just going on it. So water filled up the whole system.
It's gone.
The whole pump was shot. Dude. I'm sorry to take you down that long story, man.
Oh, yeah.
It was traumatic for me. I only had one vacuum pump on the van.
All right, man.
Clean that pump up.
Number 4 of the top 5 things technicians forget. They forget to call the office when they're done.
Who? Call who?
Let me ask you something.
Oh,
when a technician calls you during working hours, Michael, we talked about this. What's he going to say? He's going to say, hey, man, yeah, I'm just finishing up. Right? Yeah. That's the time killer, man.
I'll be done in 10 minutes.
How's it going, bro? Oh, I'm just finishing up the call, sitting in the van.
Yeah.
What are you
Office
doing?
is waiting for you to call in so they could just dump another one on you.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not calling in.
I'm just picking up. It's picking up
it's
right
4:30.
now. Yeah. All right, man. Number 3, measure system airflow. I can't say I'm not guilty of that one.
Measure who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Measure what? Huh?
Calibrated handometer, baby. Right here.
That's it.
All right, man. This one goes
Airflow's
back.
good.
That's
This
right.
says airflow's good.
This one goes back, kind of coincides with number 4, but turn in paperwork. Oh, if there's any bookkeepers that are actually watching this show, they're probably like, Yeah, like
Yeah.
score one for the home team.
Yeah.
Man,
We're gonna get a bunch of
Paperwork is-
subscribers for bookkeepers now.
Yeah. QuickBooks is going to be a sponsor of the show.
The chat's going crazy.
They can go right along with fill out paperwork.
Yeah, office managers.
All right, man. Number one. I feel like I need a drum roll. All right, you ready? Turn the disconnect back on. Come on, man. Who hasn't been guilty of that?
Dude.
I have laid in bed at night going, did I turn that back on or not?
You know what's weird? Every time that happens, as soon as somebody calls you and says,
Yeah.
it's not cooling, it's like you instantly, dang, I know I didn't turn
Yep.
the disconnect back on. Like you know right off the bat.
As soon as
you're
your
like,
pillow hits
disconnect.
the head, as soon as your head hits a pillow,
Yep.
like, oh no.
Or the gas valve switch.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
how it goes.
I've had
Nobody
that
in Florida's
phone call.
got gas over here.
Yeah.
I don't know
the rest
that
of the
pain.
country, we got gas valves.
You guys got
All right.
gas over there.
So take us down new stuff, man. Going into
New stuff?
new
Oh
stuff.
man, we're still on old stuff.
Are we still on old stuff?
Oh, we're
I
still
thought
on
we were
old
doing old stuff, new stuff. Are we
Oh,
staying
man,
with
I'm still
old?
on old stuff.
All right. Hit us with another one,
tools
man.
for old fools. And I'm an old fool. So
Show us the old fool next up.
all right, so here we go. And this goes right into what you're talking about.
Okay.
Vacuum gauge. Who remembers that from? So thermal engineering used to be like the company in.
They were like the field piece guys.
I mean, they were like they made all kinds of tools. They made, everything. So this for years was the vacuum gauge in the industry. And I know there's a few guys on here that are looking at this going,
But what years are you referring to?
Dang, that's old. Look at
probably I bought this brand new, and I think up until probably early 2000s, when some of the other ones came out. And there was a grocery store around here that probably up until 4 or 5 years ago, this was the standard that they required you to use. Now these aren't made anymore, but
You got to dig that
is
out.
that
I gotta see more of that. Yeah, pull them cables out, man. I gotta know what's up.
That's
okay,
a plug,
so
right?
this, you could either power this off 2 D-cell batteries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you had
Got a bunch of those laying around.
Yeah, we keep a lot of those around. That's the sensor for it right there. Okay, now I'm going to show you something about that in a little bit.
Yeah,
That's got radar.
I want to see how. Yeah, okay.
So you got a cable, right? Cable
Yeah.
going out to the sensor.
That's what I wanted to see.
And an AC
Yeah.
power plug.
Huh.
So
there's a transducer literally wired into it.
Well, so the fun thing about these was occasionally if you accidentally hit this with pressure, it would do this.
Wow.
Right?
Pop right
So
off.
that's all that's inside of there. It's a solid brass body. One of the big challenges with this was hang on, here's my ink pen. So one of the big challenges with this was that, and I can't hardly get this camera to focus here. Let's see if we can get that to focus a little bit better.
To the flat palm.
So what they're,
Yeah, try that.
yeah, is that better? Not
Getting
really.
there.
Not really.
I see it. It's small.
So there's a little tiny grain of wheat, and I believe this is the temperature sensor, because when we're talking about vacuum,
You say wheat?
it's grain of wheat. It's
That's organic.
That's the name of it. It's really tiny.
It's organic
Before
micro engagement.
surface mount components. Pre-surface mount components.
He say
You can
horsehair in there?
Well, so the way you got to understand how a vacuum gauge reads. So what does a vacuum gauge actually read?
Negative pressure?
Oh, it reads the absence of air between.
Right. It actually it reads pressure, but it's reading pressure above absolute zero is what the display reads.
Oh, that's right. Jim Bergman is like in my brain right now.
But if you
Yeah.
look at
Yelling
the
at
way like this sensor works, the way this sensor works, there is a heater, and that's the bigger piece, and then that little piece is a little tiny thermistor.
Yeah,
and it
sits in the
looks-
heat.
Yeah. So when we remove atmosphere, we remove gases, it doesn't transfer the heat between the two anymore.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
Conduction.
yeah. So it was radiant heat, basically. Not
Mhm.
radiant heat, but it was the air would conduct the heat between the two. The challenge was you had this big giant brass body around it so that
Wow.
it was
Conducted
really
heat.
only accurate at 70 degrees where it was calibrated.
Because it was heat sinking through the brass.
Right.
The brass it was a
Conduct.
massive heat sink around it. So it would
Mm.
change that. And they were calibrated at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Well,
Right.
if you're working in the cold or the really hot and you got that sitting around your sensor.
Or it's laying in the sun.
Yeah.
So you need like one of those headache pads to put like nice and come out the fridge.
Yeah.
It was better than anything else we had at the time, but by today's standards, it's not a great sensor anymore.
Wow.
And they don't even make them anymore because I think Hillmore bought the thermal engineering name or all the thermal engineering stuff. And the story I got when I asked him about it was there was like one guy that knew how to make those sensors, and he was about as old as the design on the meter, and he retired.
Yeah, because I remember I had a problem with a Testo, and Bill Spohn said that they switched over. Testo switched over, like 2010s to like a Perini sensor or something like that.
Pirani sensor, yeah.
Well, Bill Spohn was telling me. I figured it was Italian, you know.
So I'll dig one up for you, man.
The Peroni sensor.
So I wasn't able to get a manual, but this is something I used to reflect back on all the time. So that is they call it like a multifunction reset volume controller. We just used to call them Cruder controllers, right? It's a weird little device, but it goes on VAV boxes. And I would always have that manual in the van, like, because we did a lot of VAV work. And every single time I'd go back to a VAV box that had one of those, I had to reread it. It would never just sink in. You know what I mean? Unless I did one like the day before, the week before, right? And it was repetition. But every time I would just have to go back and I'd have to reread that manual and set the highs and the lows. And man, what a pain in the butt. Like, kudos to anybody out there still setting VAV boxes. It's so tedious, man. You make a little adjustment and you're just watching that damper just.
I hear you, man, because I used to have manuals of stuff, and now I just grabbed a cheapy tablet, downloaded everything on iBooks, and you know, like all the air handler PDFs. And
if I could go back, man, like,
dude, I would love to be a technician right now. That's all I'm saying.
I would have liked to have categorized everything somewhere and not had to go digging for it.
What, Ty, you got one in leather case. That's cool.
I used to keep a crate between my seats, and I would have like different books and crates, you know.
That's what I'm saying, man.
And then, of course, like the blue coal cleaner would spill on the floor of my van, and then it would run, and it would like hit all the bottom of my books. So all my books would have, that wet wave, but it was like, it wasn't water. It was coal cleaner, so it was like really ruined.
Like coffee, like pistachios sitting in between the pages,
sunflower seeds, everywhere. Yeah,
some Subway wrapper.
That was my van. Yeah. I kept an organized van, but I kept a pretty still it was a van, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't get washed very much.
That's it. Yeah, hey man, it's a work truck.
We're running up on time here, but I got one more I want to show everybody.
All right. One more.
I still got a stack of them back here. You know, if these guys are still hanging around, this is one that's still talked about a lot, but they aren't made anymore.
Sounds like we're going to go to an hour and 10.
There's the Digicool, right?
Overtime,
because we're having fun here.
Right. Well, we might. You never know.
Fun.
Why do we got to quit? So that's the Digicool 1200. Yeah, that's a 1200 because it's only got one temperature sensor on it. But these were the digital gauges to have because there was nothing else out there that was even halfway this.
So that's literally the first set of digital gauges that hit the market right there.
This was the first set of quality. There was another set that came out from like Robinair, I think, or something like that, but they were the biggest piece of junk that anybody's ever seen, and most of them blew up within like the first month or something like that. But
So what time frame you got here?
they started coming out mid 2000s.
Mid 2000s. Okay. Wow.
What kind of battery is that thing taking?
9-volt.
D's.
Okay, it's got a 9-volt in the back.
Takes
Yeah, it would
10
use a
D's.
9-volt. And then this on the bottom of it is actually was a prototype manifold at the time. So it was a 4-valve, big
Says
block,
TrueTech tools on it.
but it was one of the
Look at
first
that.
ones that I ever saw with a front hose park on it, because there was a whole group of us at the time that were advocating for front hose parks instead of back hose parks.
Yeah, dude. Totally.
Because, well, it only made sense, right? You needed to get the end of the hose off.
Yeah.
This
Instead of
one,
reaching around the back.
What's
This
the
one
port?
had-
What's the blue port on the top face of the gauge? I'm curious to know what's happening there.
this?
No, the top right above the mode button.
Oh, this. So that's where you
what's that?
plug in your temperature sensor.
Oh, okay.
That's where you plug the temperature clamp into
That's
to get
cool.
your superheater subcooling. So you
Cool.
could switch it on here. Depending on what line you put it on, it would read either superheat or subcooling on the display. So you had to
Dang.
toggle it back and forth. These things, I've got a couple sets of them. They are still functional. They're still probably some of the most accurate gauges I have today. And
Seriously?
they're bulletproof. They're 100% waterproof. Like, you can literally, they're so waterproof. When Doug manufactured them, and a lot of people don't realize what this port is on the back of here.
I like those magnets on the back.
Yeah, the guy that gave
Oh,
me
wow.
the-
That's cool, dude.
the buddy of mine had this manifold. I've got one of the other prototypes, and he gave me this one when he retired.
Dude,
But
that's
this
awesome.
is actually a Gore-Tex port on the back of this. And they put that in there because they had to vent it, since it's got a battery inside of it.
Oh, because the
They
off
had,
gas.
they had to vent the case because of, expansion
yeah.
and contraction in there. But there's an overmolded gasket on that case. And one of the guys I know, that he's up in Maine, he literally hung these on the back of his truck in a driving rainstorm and drove home with them till somebody came up, pulled him over, and was like, there's something expensive hanging off the back of your truck. Because these
Dude,
things
that's
at the
cool.
time were probably $600 or $700 to buy that, just the head. And then you had to put it on your own manifold.
Man,
Dude,
that's
that's cool.
expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that part. So you'd have to hook it to a manifold. It didn't come with the manifold.
That's my first
No.
digital right there.
Oh, look.
This one is straight, but they actually came with two angled fittings,
Yeah.
like two right angle fittings, and they would swivel back and forth to be able to put it on whatever manifold you wanted. So it would fit on manifolds with different spacing here. Yellow, originally when Digicool made these, he was private labeling them for Yellow Jacket. And so they made the spacing on the units, I think, to fit the Brute 2 manifold. I think that's what it will fit straight on. And then everything else requires these offset swivels.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice, man. For so early of a design, that's cool.
Oh, it was. I can't tell you how much time he worked, and it was to make that. The problem with this manifold was the way that it's sealed, because the whole idea behind this manifold was it had a bigger bore through the middle of it, and the sight glass. So I don't know if you can see the sight glass on there.
It's big.
Yeah, I love
you can
having
actually
a sight glass.
see, if you see my finger behind it.
So you bought that at TrueTech Tools?
No, that was never sold to the public. That's a pure prototype right there that was tested out, and all of us that tested it figured out that you actually had to take a wrench and seat everything. The seats on the valves so hard, and anytime you used them, you had to crank this down so hard to make them seal.
That's normal technician leverage.
It was beyond normal technician leverage.
You sure?
Yes,
Dude, I've seen a lot of surface caps over tightened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I broke a few 550s that way.
Yeah.
You really had to. And this one's another cool one. I gotta dig this one up here. All right. This is another one.
Eric's got like a museum at his house.
HVAC museum.
Yeah. So what he's not telling everybody, he's secretly just building like an HVAC museum. He's going to charge everybody like $20 to come walk through it.
Yeah, it's
You
only
remember
$20
that
to get in.
Cooper
That's it.
Atkins? Yeah, this one's got dust on it.
Can't have that in the
Cooper
museum.
Atkins, that SH66 I showed, right? Well, this is their MFM 300.
What is that? S video on there for TV?
Well, so what it is, this was a multifunction. So they had 3 temperature probes and then 2 multifunction ports on either side of it. And you could hook up pressure probes, right? So this was this is
like Radio
refrigerant
Shack
pressure
right
probes. So you could hook in 2 refrigerant pressure probes. Actually, if you look at that, that's an old keyboard connector.
That's where.
That's the early standard keyboard connector for your computer.
And when it breaks, you just go to Goodwill and get another one.
Then these were psychometric probes.
Oh, wow.
So it would actually read. This was one of the first instruments that I bought that would actually read differential enthalpy.
Wow.
Internally. So I didn't have to do any calculations. This was one of the first things this was like the early probe setup.
Eric was geeking out. He's like, I can get BTUs off of this now.
And then the other piece that they made was they actually made a large vein anemometer to go on it. So you had a large vein anemometer on there.
Dude, that's impressive.
And it would plug. That was all that would plug into these multifunction ports or universal ports on there.
That reminds me of the new Testo that just came out. Well, three something years ago.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Yeah. I mean, I got some, if you want to see a really old one.
It's that Testo that has like those 3 functions in one.
This one I never used.
Or your field piece that's got, 20 different heads that can go on it.
Oh, goodness. Look at him.
Okay. I've never had that field piece meter that you were showing earlier, and I'm just curious. Was that a good tool? Like
this
the field piece?
This guy?
Isn't that the filled piece where you buy the bag and you get like 20 different attachments to go to the top?
It's
so
called
just feedback. Was that really like a good thing? I have never had one.
It's
I
called
have a filled
the
piece
guide.
meter.
Yeah, it was called the guide, and it would like do your troubleshooting for you. It's kind of like almost like a precursor to like what Measure Quick or the iManifold was.
I used to call it my service manager in a can.
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, did it?
I was such a rookie. Like, I would go superheat, so cool. You like click it on there, and it would give you outdoor dry bulb, return wet bulb, suction line pressure, but you'd have to put different heads on them.
Yeah.
You could put the airflow thing on there. But the cool thing was, like, if you were really green and you had like 2 degrees subcool, it would say, all right, idiot, add some gas. And it was, it's like service manager. But it was pretty cool. It helped, man. It was like training wheels.
Yeah, 'cause it would take all the heads that would normally go on the stick meter, and you could plug them onto the top of that, right?
Exactly. So what I had was,
I remember that. I just never had one, and I was wondering if, like, were they accurate? Was it a good product?
No, accuracy, I have no idea. But what I used it for, it had you could put one hose on it, so you get. So if you did subcool, you put it on the high side, and then it's got a little spot for I don't know if you want to use the clamp or you want to wrap a temperature probe on there. And the thing that was nice was it gave you a little bit of instruction. So
hey, Ty, that's good to hear. Thanks for the update there on John Ellis.
Yeah, I seen he posted earlier today.
What happened to John?
There's a big fire.
His house is in the middle of that big fire out in northern New Mexico.
Oh, yeah, that's horrible. John's a cool guy, man.
Yeah, we'll have to stay in touch with him.
Yeah.
So, man, I don't know. I got kids to bathe. How about you guys?
I got no kids, so.
All right, man.
My kids are sleeping.
Until next month. It was fun.
All right, everybody.
Eric, thanks for digging out your museum for us.
Been fun.
See you.
We'll see you next time.
Later, guys.
Thanks for joining, and we will catch you next time on the HVAC Grapevine.